Right now, you can walk into any store, hand over a few coins, and unwrap a chocolate bar in seconds. No effort, no waiting. Just pleasure, packaged and ready. But 3,000 years ago, that same bar would have cost someone weeks of labor, a sacred ritual, and a tree that only grows in the shadow of the rainforest. The real story of chocolate is far stranger than anything sitting on your supermarket shelf. Because chocolate didn't start as candy. It started as medicine, as currency, as a drink so bitter it would make your face twist. And somewhere between a rainforest floor and a royal palace, humans turned a strange pale seed pod into one of the most desired substances on Earth. Picture the tropical lowlands of what is now southern Mexico. Around 1500 BCE, the Olmec people, one of the earliest complex societies in the Americas, are walking beneath a short, shaded tree. Hanging from its trunk, not its branches, are strange oval pods, yellow, orange, deep red. Crack one open and inside sits a slippery white pulp wrapped around rows of purple-brown seeds. That tree is Theobroma cacao. Its name, given centuries later, literally means food of the gods. The Olmec didn't know they were starting a global obsession, they just noticed something interesting. The sweet pulp around the seeds could be fermented into a mildly alcoholic drink, and the bitter seeds inside, once dried, held a strange power. Archaeologist John Henderson at Cornell University studied residue left inside ancient Olmec pottery. His team found theobromine, a chemical compound unique to cacao, baked into vessels dating back over 3,000 years. That residue is the earliest hard evidence that humans were processing cacao long before anyone was eating it the way you do today. Here's what almost nobody realizes. For nearly 2,000 years, chocolate was never sweet. It was never solid. It was a drink, and a punishingly bitter one. The process itself was brutal. Workers had to climb or reach the trees, cut down the pods by hand, and split them open with a blunt tool. The seeds, still coated in pulp, were piled up and left to ferment for several days, turning from pale purple to a deep brown. Then they were spread out and dried under the sun for another week. Only after that could the beans be roasted over an open fire, cracked and ground by hand between stones into a thick, oily paste. Think about that. Days of fermenting, a week of drying, hours of grinding by hand, on your knees, with nothing but stone. All of that just to make one drink. By the time the Maya civilization rose to prominence, cacao had become something closer to a sacred substance than a snack. Historian Cameron McNeil, who has written extensively on cacao in Mesoamerica, describes how Maya rulers were buried with vessels of chocolate meant to nourish them in the afterlife. The drink itself, called cacao, was mixed with water, chili peppers, cornmeal, and spices, then poured back and forth between two containers from a height, again and again, until a thick reddish foam rose to the top. That foam wasn't decoration, it was considered the best part. Later, the Aztec Empire took cacao even further. They didn't grow it well in their own dry highlands, so they had it brought in through tribute and trade from conquered lowland regions. Cacao beans became so valuable that people used them as currency. Historian Michael Coe, in his research on chocolate's history, documented Aztec records showing that a single turkey could be bought for around 100 cacao beans and a rabbit for around 30. Imagine paying for dinner not with coins, but with the raw ingredient for chocolate itself. The Aztec called their version of the drink zoccolatl, and it's from that word that we eventually get the name chocolate. But their version had none of the sweetness you expect. No sugar, no milk, just bitter cacao, water, and often chili and vanilla, sometimes served cold, sometimes hot, always intensely strong. Emperor Moctezuma reportedly drank it before entering his private chambers, believing it gave him strength and stamina. So when did it become the sweet, smooth chocolate you know? That transformation only began after European contact in the 16th century. Spanish colonizers brought cacao back across the Atlantic, and somewhere along the way, someone made a simple but revolutionary decision: add sugar. Once European sugar met Mesoamerican cacao, the bitter ritual drink slowly became a sweetened luxury. First for aristocrats, then, centuries later, for anyone with a few spare coins. Here's the twist worth sitting with. Everything that makes modern chocolate effortless, the factories, the machines, the shelves stocked year-round, only exists because someone, somewhere, first figured out how to survive on nothing but patience, fire, and stone. Every bar you unwrap today carries the ghost of that ancient labor inside it. So the next time you break off a piece of chocolate without a second thought, remember this. You're not just tasting sugar and cacao, you're tasting 3,000 years of ritual, currency, and devotion, compressed into something that now takes you seconds to enjoy.